You're watching The Whole Living Show on Trajectory TV.
Come check this.
Welcome everybody. It is time for the Whole Living Show. And as usual, tonight is going to be special because as always, I have an amazing guest that is waiting backstage. But before we get into that, I want to first recognize that commercial that you saw before the show opening. Radical Press magazine will be coming out August 20th. So everybody get ready. We want to make sure that you are aware so that you can get your digital copy of the magazine or a hard copy. But we want to make sure that you're aware because you are going to get some exciting, very truthful, very raw and new type of articles that are going to be in this magazine. So make sure that you look out for it. It drops on August 20th. So very short time frame coming up. So pay attention, stay tuned, and get your copy. And myself and my amazing sister producer backstage, we are contributors to the magazine. So support us, everybody. All right. So listen, tonight we are talking about the Alabama brawl. So I want to just read a little bit of an article. I'm not going to go into the full article, but people are already making memes and jokes about this particular brawl. There was so much happening all at one time. So just going to talk to you about it. I'm sure that you all out there have seen it on social media somewhere, but this happened in Montgomery, Alabama, right on the river. So it starts off saying, what would have been an otherwise peaceful Saturday evening on Montgomery's riverfront took an ugly turn as a violent brawl erupted in Alabama's capital city. So police they have 3 people that are in custody that are being charged, and they have one person that they're saying is at large. Now, this definitely was a white versus black fight. That was clear. There were 3 white men that jumped a black man, and other black participants started to rush over to help the black man in his defense. And then it just grew and grew as more people started to come. There was one young man who is now at large who grabbed a chair, a plastic chair, seemed like a lightweight chair. Don't know how hard he was actually hitting the people. And, it's just incorrect. That's really considered a weapon, right? But he was hitting people on the back and upside the head. Listen, the way they're putting out the memes, it seems really comical, but let me talk about the serious side first. And I know comedians are going to get a kick out of this video and the things that took place, but let's just talk about the serious side of it first. One part of it is, here we are in 2023, right? And we have this white on black brawl happening where 3 white men took it upon themselves to jump a man. We don't know exactly what was said, what took place, what the altercation was really all about. We just really are privy to because of technology, right? We're privy to the videos of the actual fighting, but we don't know what happened before that. But at any rate, it does not give 3 people the right to jump on one man, right? And I'm just going to say this because I'm a Black woman and I live this Black truth every day here in the United States, and we're just going to talk about it. It does not give 3 white men either the right to jump on a Black man. So it's very sensitive to all communities, but sensitive to the Black community, especially because these are things that we deal with all the time. And, you know, we are hoping, right, that things will get better, but they just have not so much, right? So we just want to mention this, and I have to tell the truth on these matters, right? Because, you know, the prejudice is still out there. And again, like I said, we don't know the reason, the full reason behind the altercation. However, it was clear that this was a white and a Black fight, and it was the white people versus the Black people. And it's disgraceful, to be perfectly honest with you. It really is. But now we have a special guest that is backstage that is going to help us to build our legal prowess, right? And this is a legal matter now because it was a fight. And one person decided to use a weapon, which is a chair, but it's still a weapon. And somebody could have really gotten hurt, though they have not reported that somebody was really hurt. However, this is still a legal matter now because the police were called. The 3 men were charged. One needs to be charged, and he is still at large. And they're all adults. So this is a legal matter for people to try to sort out now. So we're going to be talking with our guest tonight about, you know, just the importance of having attorneys on retainer for all aspects of your life. And when we had a conversation, we were talking more about the business side and some of the more personal items that you need legal assistance for. But here we are now, you know, looking at what happened not that long ago, a few days ago, and somebody needs legal assistance. And I'm like, wow, this is definitely something to mention tonight because of the topic. But also, I want to now just talk a little bit about the comical side of this, right? Because if you've seen the memes, there are people now recreating this whole scene in pools. And I failed to mention that there was someone who jumped into the water and swam over to the dock to help the Black man who was being jumped by the 3 white men. So now they're creating memes and videos about this. And there was one video where it was somebody's backyard pool, wasn't a river, right? And they showed someone swimming over and somebody grabbing a chair. And so now people are making funny videos out of this. But, you know, in all seriousness, it's really not. When you get down to the nitty gritty of it, right? Exactly. When you get down to it, it's a very serious matter. And, you know, because we don't understand what happened behind the scenes, you know, we really can't get into that part of it. But at the same time, listen, there's no need to really physically fight unless you're really being threatened. And it didn't look like that initially. I will say that just from watching the video, it didn't really look threatened until the hands went up, right? People started throwing punches, and then that's when the threats came. But they were having a discussion at first, and then all of a sudden, you know, people decided that they were going to put their hands on this Black man, and he threw his hat up, which was almost, that was comical as well. I'm sorry, I have to talk about it, but it was comical because it was like he was throwing a warning flag out to the young men who were starting to throw their fists up, but he threw his hat up. I don't know what that meant. I just thought that part was kind of comical, but at the same time, it's a very serious matter, everyone. And we're going to get into why you need to have legal support at all times for things like this, or just for everything else in your life. And we'll get into what that means. So I want to introduce my beautiful guest who is waiting backstage, and I want her to tell her story and why this is so important to her. So her name is Yvette Gentry. She graduated from the University of Cincinnati with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. She has over 24 years of experience in community corrections. Yvette is a wife, a mother, and a Gigi to 5 grandchildren, and I can't believe it because when you see her, you would not think so, whom she endlessly adores. Being a teen mom, Yvette learned at an early age the importance of having a strong work ethic and the power of being able to effectively advocate for herself and her children. Yvette is passionate about serving others and empowering women to show up for themselves unapologetically. And I love that. We're going to get into what that means to her as well. Yvette embraces this motto for her life: I'm either winning or learning. Her favorite scripture is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. I love this. So without further ado, everyone, I want you to give Yvette a virtual round of applause. Put your hands together, and we are going to bring her in and get into the conversation. Hello, hello, beautiful. So I'm just going to say it first, right? I can't believe that you're a grandmother of 5 children, a Gigi of 5, because
Yes.
you look so young.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are my heartbeats, my babies. They're my heartbeats.
I'm sure. God bless them all, and you as well.
Thank you.
So listen, I want to start off the conversation. First, let's talk about, this legal matter that I just mentioned, because now it is a legal matter. The ridiculousness of the fight that happened.
Yes.
And I say it's almost comical, maybe because of all the things that other people are putting out there. But just let's talk a little bit about that from a legal perspective, because, we're here to talk about legal prowess and, having legal support for everything that you need in your life. So talk a little bit about, a person who gets into something like this, a brawl, and what they can do, right, to cover themselves legally.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. And first, I got to say, wow, this is amazing. The whole Living Show, just an amazing platform. And thank you for having me on. So as you read, I have 24 years of experience in community corrections, basically law enforcement. So when things like this happen in the community, I typically don't watch it just because I'm looking at it from a different vantage point, right? And so I did watch this a little bit. And when people are in situations like this, they definitely need to have an attorney. They need to be able to get to an attorney most immediately, because oftentimes what happens is people begin to talk and say things that they shouldn't say. And so what most of us know, if you don't know, you have something called Miranda rights. And your Miranda rights are the right to remain silent or the right to talk to an attorney. But most people, they involuntarily give away their Miranda rights because they began to try to tell their side of the story, right? And so what I need everybody to understand is that what you say can and will be used against you in court. But when you have access to an attorney in those type of situations, right, you're able to first have a consult with your attorney about what you should and should not say. And an attorney is going to advise you not to say anything, not to say anything. And then, but being able to have that access is what's so important.
Absolutely. And I love the comment that was put up there. If you're one to defend yourself, you need legal services. Don't do that. Don't do that, everyone, unless, you are an attorney or, have been at one point. Don't try to defend yourself. But I love the fact that you brought up the Miranda rights, because I think people forget about that, right? For whatever reason, fear, of, just law enforcement, or, just thinking that they're doing the right thing at that time by just, basically spilling their guts, right? And telling everything instead of just, seeking legal services and getting the consult before they start to speak. And I know, some people, either they're aware of it or, Miranda rights is something that they've seen on television, right? But don't know the full scope of that. So I love that you mentioned that, because that's a great reminder to people to just, not say a word and, seek some legal advice. So I wanted you to get into your story, because you have an interesting story. And you just mentioned that you've been in law enforcement for a long time. However, right, you have your own story. So tell us your story and why, even if you became more aware of why it's so important to have legal services.
Absolutely. So 15 years ago, I was getting ready for work. I was getting myself ready and getting my children ready for work. And my husband came out of the bedroom, sat on the couch and said, I won't be back after work. I don't want this marriage anymore. And I said, wow, right? And I was totally caught off guard. And people still today, they say, you had to have some signs. There had to be something. And I promise there were no signs, right? But what that did for me is that day he left for work and never came back.
Wow.
But you see, I had built a family, a lifestyle on a 2-income household, the car I drove, the home we lived in, the school my children went to. It was all based on a 2-income household. But quickly, that 2-income household turned into 1 income, right? So I had a couple of things going on. I needed to replace my income, but then I also was faced with a legal situation. Despite being in law enforcement for 24 years, and honestly, prior to having that experience and learning much more about the legal industry, I thought attorneys were for bad people. And I know I'm not the only one. I really thought attorneys were for bad people. Naively, you see, I grew up in a household with a single mom, and she didn't have the resources to be able to talk to an attorney before she signed a lease agreement, or talk to an attorney when she got a letter in the mail that she didn't understand. She didn't know about this service, right? So for us, whenever an attorney came into play, is because somebody was in trouble or somebody was trying to sue you. One of the two. Outside of that, we didn't have the luxury of just being able to pick up the phone and call an attorney. Were you going to say something, Tracy?
Yeah, I was going to say that's so key too when you think about it, because, especially in the Black community, I'm definitely going to say that, right? Like we did not secure attorneys for some of the normal things in life. Like you mentioned, just having a lease agreement and having an attorney to review that lease agreement before you get into the lease, or being able to look at your mortgage documents, right? All the little things that you need, or like you said, receiving a letter, right? And not knowing exactly what it means and not having the legal services or an attorney that you can secure to review those things for you. So you think about just the normal course of business throughout your life, you need an attorney. But then to say, and it's so true, right? In our communities, a lot of times, attorneys were associated with people who did something wrong. And that's when people sought an attorney. That's when they thought they should seek an attorney. So let's get into that a little bit and talk about, the importance of, and just using, like that lease agreement as an example, or something else that's just very normal to everyday life, and why you need an attorney to look at those documents, because they're contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Tracy, it's so important. And what I tell people is that when you don't know your rights, you don't have any rights. So shortly after becoming a member of the service, I had to use it, right? Again, I had never used an attorney before, but I had moved out of that apartment that I lived in, because after the divorce, I had to move from the house and we had to go to an apartment, but I got my weight back and I was able to then purchase a new home for me and my children. So I moved out of the apartment, cleaned it up really good, Tracy. Why? Because I wanted my security deposit back, right? $750. It was in October. So I figured I'll use that security deposit to Christmas shop for the kids, right? Well, October went by, November went by, December went by, January went by, and I still had not got my security deposit back. Now I was calling the leasing agency like, hey, and they were giving me the runaround, but I said, wait a minute. I have access to an attorney. So I picked up the phone, called my attorney. And what my attorney shared with me, Tracy, was that in my state, in the state of Ohio, that whenever a landlord does not give you your security deposit back within 30 days, or let you know in writing why you're not going to get it back, you can sue them for double. So my attorney fired off a letter on my behalf. I didn't know that. Fired off a letter on my behalf. I had been waiting 90 days for my security deposit. Within 7 days, I got a check in the mail and it was doubled. Now, they only demanded my $750. And so I shared that story with people, just one, to help you understand the power of having access to your rights. I didn't know that you could sue for double, but my attorney did. So my attorney fired off a letter, unlike the letter that me and you write. The letter that me and you write, Tracy, is going to go to customer service, actually customer no service, right? But when the attorney writes a letter on your behalf, guess what? It's going to go to the legal department, because everybody we do business with, especially when you're talking about big box companies, they have a legal department. And so I want to be able to help everybody understand that you can have your own legal team of attorneys to be able to walk you through minor things and major things. I want us to understand that we no longer have to always be in reactive mode. You have the ability to be proactive before it becomes a 911, before it becomes a code red. As soon as you have a situation, pick up the phone and be able to consult with an attorney. It changes the game completely.
Absolutely. And something that I wanted to highlight in there too, when you were just talking about that situation and then speaking to an attorney, state and local laws are constantly changing. And the average person is not going to be able to keep up, nor have the interest to keep up with those laws. But when you seek an attorney to review, documents or situations that you have, like you did, you find out that there's laws out there that are protecting you that you didn't even know about. And if you don't go seek it, you're not going to get the protection that's out there for you because you didn't know it existed, right? And nobody's going to do that for you. So I love that you said be proactive instead of reactive. And I like that you use the health analogy in there, right? Don't want to code red, because I always talk to people about that when it comes to their health. But this is health, right? This is health in life. Also being able to seek an attorney is health. So let's get into this a little bit more, because I want to talk about some of the normal situations that people think they may not need an attorney for, that, you would be better off getting legal services to help you.
So something as simple as writing or revising your will. What people know is that you can go online and you can get a will kit and you can write it up and that's fine. Or you can just write something on a napkin, but being able to really understand what your assets are, because oftentimes people tell me, oh, I don't have anything. I don't have any children, or I don't have a home, or they think they need to have a lot of money. And what I tell people is that the will is the last love letter to your family. It has much more to do than just your assets. What are your final wishes? Do you want to be resuscitated? Do you want to be on life support? Who's going to manage your social media account? I saw a pretty dog right before we got started. Who's going to take care of your pets? These are all things that go in the will, but most people don't think about those things, right? Or somebody might say, well, I have my will done. Awesome. When was the last time it's been updated? Well, it's been a long time. Well, some things have changed, right? And so again, those estate planning documents, that healthcare power of attorney is critical. The healthcare power of attorney is critical, because what happens is, Tracy, you may have a will in place, but if you don't have a healthcare power of attorney, and let's say you're in a car accident and now you're in a coma, who's in place to be able to make health care decisions for you? Who do you have appointed? If you have a spouse, one would say, well, your spouse automatically will do it. Well, what if you and the spouse were in the car together? Or what if you and the spouse were on the bus together or the train together and you both were injured? Who do you have in place to be able to navigate your life for you when you can't? When you have a speeding ticket, some of us receive speeding tickets, and most people will just go pay it. But if you were able to have an attorney go to court with you or for you and represent you on that speeding ticket, again, not to condone speeding, but if they can get that speeding ticket amended to a non-moving violation, so you don't get any points on your license, so when your insurance company runs your record, you still have a good driving record, would you? Absolutely. Who wouldn't? Again, that's the legal situation. If you just ever had a question about anything, is this right? If you've ever said, may I speak to your supervisor? Tracy, I no longer say that. When things are going the way that people think that they should go, i.e. the company or the person that I'm speaking to, I kind of say, is this your final answer? And they say, well, yeah. I said, well, absolutely. You're here for my attorney. Now, I know I've heard it when I was little, and I know a lot of people, especially in our Black and brown community, they say, well, you're going to hear from my attorney, but they really don't have one. But we can empower you to actually have one, because I no longer have to stress and guess. So when you talk about whole living in health, being able to have access to an attorney helps you to worry less and live more. There are so many people that are falling asleep at night with questions going, where they're not even falling asleep, they're laying down because they can't sleep because their mind is racing. They're trying to figure out, what am I going to do about this? How do I solve this? I just need to talk to somebody that can give me and point me in the right direction. that's not allowing your body to rest well at night. That's not
Mhm.
allowing your mind to rest well at night. And so people are passing away now at much younger ages. Why? Because the stress levels are so high.
Yeah.
Finances is one piece of it, but a
Mhm.
piece, in my opinion, is just being able to have somebody to help them navigate through everyday life situations. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be anything major, but they just need somebody to help them, and not Google, because I want to tell everybody that's listening, Google never passed a bar exam,
That's right.
never went to law school. So stop asking Google all these questions.
Yes, come on. So first of all, you are preaching in here today. I just have to tell you, but I wanted to mention something key that you talked about too, that health piece and having that healthcare power of attorney. And I'm just going to give a little short story. I had a cousin who passed away. She didn't have a will in place. She didn't have any children. She didn't have a spouse to leave behind. And before she passed away, she went into the hospital. So let's just talk about that part first. Before she passed away, she went into the hospital, and they had to take the next of kin, right, which was her nephew, in order for her to be able to get a certain level of care. Now, her nephew didn't really know what was going on, didn't necessarily want to be a part of that, right? And I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but what you're saying is, no, have the people set up that you know are going to take care of you in the event that something happens, and they're going to have your best interest at heart. You know, she just didn't have that protection. So things were falling by the wayside, even with her in the hospital. And I will say this, and this is another reason why it's so great to have legal services, because the doctors and the nurses didn't care as much, because she did not have the protection and the people that were advocating for her health. Now, had that been in place and she had the right people in place, things may have turned out differently. I'll be quite honest with you. So I just wanted to mention that one very, very key thing. And then you talked about, the wills and having those things set up. I can remember the story about the man who the Dallas show was named after. And they said when he passed away, there was nothing in his name except for his very first truck that he bought. So he protected everything to the point where, the state, the government could not come in and take it. It was so protected that the people who he wanted to receive everything that he had was able to get it, right? Because of the way he had it set up. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, because you are really dropping some great gems here, gems. And people need to know this. So if you have not gotten your legal services, you need to reach out to Yvette. I'm just going to say that before we take a commercial break. You need it for any situation in your life, or just to ask questions, right? Reach out to Yvette. I want to put that QR code up there, because you can book a consultation with her in order to understand the type of legal services that you need to get in order for you to be protected for any aspect of your life. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Excuse me, I cannot talk today. We're going to take a quick commercial break, say that 10 times fast, and we're going to come back and we're going to continue to talk to Yvette about protecting your life. All right, everyone, and we are back. We are here with Yvette Gentry, and we are talking about building your legal prowess so that you can be protected for all aspects of your life. if you missed the first part of this show, you want to make sure that you go back and watch, because Yvette was preaching and giving you really great gems in how to protect yourself for, that's right, and how to protect yourself for some of even just the normal day-to-day things in life where you don't necessarily think you need protection, but you need protection. So I'm going to mention her QR code again here. It is on the screen. You want to make sure that you scan that and that you book a consultation with her in order to understand why you need legal services and how you can get them. All right. So we are back with you, Yvette. And I just want to go into this even more, give us some other things, because, people don't really understand what they need legal services for until it's mentioned. Right. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we're just covering, various bases here. So, people can really think about it and book that call with you so they can get the protection that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple of things I want to mention. One, I wanted to be clear that I'm not an attorney. I'm just a everyday person that found myself in a situation where I was caught off guard. My friend shared the services with me. And because of the experience that I had with the service, I said, I want everybody I know to be able to know about it. Right. And then 2, it's National Make-A-Will Month. And so if the country, whoever makes the holidays over the months, decided that it was important enough to make National Make-A-Will Month, that means that all of us need to take the time this month or any month, but definitely this month, to make sure that you get your will done. So I have 25 things that I want to read off, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
People need to be legal ready. We already talked about if you don't have an updated will, if you don't understand your health insurance or the new plan, especially with our elderly community, they got plan A and B and C. The elderly people don't understand that. But if they have a family member that can talk to an attorney on their behalf, okay, that's that healthcare power of attorney, right? If they can have somebody that can talk to an attorney on their behalf and help break that down, then that could make more sense for them. If you've ever been selected for an audit, if you're buying or selling a home, again, all those documents still need to be reviewed. I want to tell you a story real quick. During the pandemic, a member of mine, she was getting her house refinanced, and the price came back and it was really good. And she was excited. She had just signed up, but she said that the loan officer and everybody had looked at the documents. I said, well, because you have the ability to be able to have the attorneys to review your documents to 15 pages, why don't you just send it over to the law firm? It's costing you nothing. She sent it over to the law firm and she called me back in tears. And she said, Yvette, I'm so glad that you pressed me to do that, because what had happened was the bank had taken her taxes and insurance out of the loan. Therefore, she was able to, that's what brought her loan payment down, but they didn't tell her that. So she would have been paying her loan payment all this time thinking that, she was paying her taxes and insurance until her home would have been into some type of foreclosure. Again, having access to an attorney. The landlord raises your rent, or if you're living in a home and the landlord is not. This is one of my grandbabies. I'm so sorry.
And that's okay. This is real life.
And the landlord is not fixing the repairs like they're supposed to. You've been calling and, you have mold in your house, or, you have a leaky faucet, or, the carpet is dirty, or you have bed bugs. All those things are legal situations. If you have a teenager that's been accused of something, or if somebody wants to speak to your teenager, teenager needs to be able to call their attorney, not you, because there's nothing that you can do, right? Or you have a child that's receiving disability, right? Or if you have a child that has an IEP or a 50, it's another plan. But those are situations where not all the school systems really respect our babies and when they have an IEP, right? But as a parent, if you don't know what they're supposed to do, guess what? You'll settle for anything. Those are things that you need to talk to an attorney about. Or if you have somebody is injured on your property, or you're injured on somebody else's property, your dog's neighbor bites you, or your dog bites your neighbor. And I could go on and on and on, Tracy, about people need to have access to an attorney. Just being able to pick up the phone and say, what are my legal rights in this situation? Or can you do this? And have an attorney that specializes in that particular area of law to be able to answer that question for you is priceless.
Yeah. And I love that you talked about, I'm just going to go back to one of them too. But some of this just so normal and people overlook a lot of it because there's so much paperwork behind a lot of these things. And you talked about the health insurance and having an attorney review your health insurance. Wow, that's so key because some people don't really understand the terms of their health insurance, right? They don't understand what really goes into it. So they don't really understand what coverage they have and what they don't have. And we lost Yvette here a little bit, guys. So we'll just wait for her to pop back in. But how key is that when you think about it, to have an attorney review your insurance, your health insurance? And here she is. It looks like we lost you for a moment there. But I was just talking about the health insurance piece of it. People don't usually understand the terms of their health insurance. And then when something happens, they recognize that, oh, I'm not covered, right? And the insurance company will tell them they're not covered for something. Well, had they known about it, maybe they would have gotten additional coverage, or maybe they would have gotten a flex plan or something that would help them cover whatever issue they're having. But people don't do that until it's time, right? Being reactive again instead of being proactive. So,
Exactly.
so key there. And pay attention, right, to the terms, and then go seek an attorney and say, okay, what should I make of all of this? What do I have? What don't I have?
Right. What should I make? And so the traditional legal system is pretty archaic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most Americans are priced out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, at $250 to $300 an hour, how many hours do you have to work to be able to pay for 1 hour of an attorney's time?
Yeah.
And I know there are people are listening that says, well, I can get a consultation. Absolutely. You can get a consultation. Some consultations cost, but then understand that in the consultation, they're only going to tell you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get to the real good part, the part that's really going to help you, then they'll start talking about how much it costs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another listener that's saying, oh, well, my friend, my uncle, my aunt, my cousin is an attorney, and that's awesome too. But what we know is that not all attorneys specializes in all areas of law, and depending upon where it is that they're licensed, they might not be licensed in your state, and what's good in Ohio may not be good in Georgia, and what's good in Georgia may not be good in Florida. So why not be able to have access to a law firm of attorneys in all 50 states and all provinces and territories in Canada, so your unique situation can be addressed? Because even though you have a cousin, brother, or auntie that's an attorney, what I tell people, you might have somebody, a cousin, brother, auntie that's a doctor, but do you cancel your health insurance? Absolutely not. Your health insurance, you might patronize them with your health insurance, but you don't cancel your health insurance. And I want all of us to really begin to take our legal rights just as serious as we take our health insurance and our car insurance and all these other insurances that we have in place. Understand that an attorney has the ability to make all those other insurances do what they know they're supposed to do, but sometimes don't do because they know we as the consumer don't know.
Right, absolutely. And listen, that's so key too, to talk about the specialties, right? When it comes to having attorneys, just like you mentioned, the doctors, there's, you have your podiatrist, your gynecologist, your oncologist, your pulmonologist, your every doctor, there's a specialty unless you're just getting a general practice physician, right? So with an attorney, you need the same thing. There's different parts of law that attorneys that they specialize in that can help you. So to be able to have all of that at your disposal when you need it for whatever the situation is, and have that specialty through a firm that has attorneys who specialize in it all, right? They can find you that person, and then to understand the laws in your area. So key, right? Multiple areas of practice, one price. I love that. Yes.
And another key thing I want to mention, Tracy, is not only is it being able to have that access, but it's being able to develop a relationship with an attorney. And so what I tell people, especially when I'm meeting with families that have young adults, and especially young adult Black males, to just be real honest, I really want to help our community understand that we can form a relationship with an attorney without being wanted from the police or running from the police, right? Being able to just know that no matter what happens, that you have access to be able to call an attorney and get your questions answered, to be able to have a conversation when you're not in crisis mode.
Yeah.
See, when you're in crisis mode, everything sounds different, it feels different. But when you're in just regular everyday mode and you call the attorney, you're able to think differently. You're able to ask different questions because you're not in a crisis. I want us to stop being in crises. I want us to be able to feel like a segment of our society does, because they understand what it means to have an attorney on retainer. Their children understands what it means to have an attorney on retainer, and we can have that exact same access and actually better access, but at a much more affordable rate.
Yeah, and you talked about the children. So, what age should you start securing legal services for your children?
It's funny that you asked that, because on our membership, on the application, we ask, what your dependents are and what their ages are. And oftentimes I'm signing up families that have young children that might be 2 or 3 years old, or even infants. And so what I tell them, put them on there too, because we had a member who had a child that was 2 years old, went to daycare and bit another child.
Wow.
And so now the family wants to sue them because their child. So now that child, even though that child is a minor, now that child is the subject of a lawsuit, i.e. her family. Yeah. But let's just say that child was not on the membership. And the parent says, oh, she's 2, I don't want to add her. Now the attorneys will be able to help them, but they would have to pay out of pocket. But because the child was on the membership, that's a civil lawsuit, which is another part of the service that's covered at 100%. The family was able to get that coverage from the attorney and not have to pay anything out of pocket. And so I say, it's much like a Social Security number. As soon as your child is born and you have these services, add them to the service, because you just never know when something happens. And what I've always heard one of my mentors say is that it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that, because, sometimes you think you're savvy, right? And at 2 years old, I would have never thought, right, that a 2-year-old would need legal services for any reason, even though those things happen. But for the opposing side to go through with wanting to sue the family because the child bit their child.
Absolutely.
Wow. You just don't think about it that way. And I love that you said that. So protect your whole family, everyone out there listening, make sure that you get protection for your entire family. So talk a little bit about, kind of what's included with your membership versus, what you may have to come out of pocket for.
That's perfect. So what's included is unlimited consultation on any personal legal matter from A to Z. You can pick up the phone and talk to the attorney about any of those matters. Unlimited document and contract review for your personal plan, up to 15 pages. We also have business plans, and I'll talk about that a little bit at the end if I have time. And then letters and phone calls written on your behalf. Again, all of that is unlimited, right? Your will, your living will, your healthcare power of attorney, and your financial power of attorney is all included in the plan. If you were to receive, I talked about a speeding ticket, you being able to have an attorney go to court with you or for you is also included in the plan. If you're in a civil lawsuit, I talked a little bit about that. If a credit card company wants to sue you, or if you in an automobile accident, because oftentimes people say, well, I have automobile insurance, or when I'm talking to small business owners, they say, well, I have general liability insurance, and that's awesome. But understand that much like your automobile insurance, the automobile insurance kicks in when there's monies to be paid out, the property damage or the bodily injury. That's where the auto insurance kicks in. But if somebody civilly sues you, now you need an attorney to represent you in that lawsuit, right? And if you lose, your limited liability insurance will kick in, but there's no attorney attached to those type of insurances. And so if you're named in a civil lawsuit, you're able to have an attorney represent you and your covered family member. The first you have the membership, you have 60 hours of an attorney's time that's already paid for. After having the membership for 5 years, those hours go up to $300, but guess what? Your premium never goes up, right? If you're named in a tax audit, you're able to have access to a tax attorney, which is different than a CPA, which is different than an accountant. We're talking about a tax attorney because the tax laws and codes are different, and they change from season to season and month to month. And again, if you're not an attorney, you wouldn't know this. You're able to have access to a tax attorney. And then if you are in a situation where you need access to an attorney in an emergency situation, that's 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're being arrested or detained by law enforcement, if you're served with a warrant, if you're in an automobile accident and there are injuries, or if Child Protective Services shows up and wants to remove your children. And so when I talk about that part, Tracy, I get really passionate because it's no secret. I work in law enforcement and I don't condone a lot of stuff that happens. So it's no secret what the relationship is between law enforcement and our Black and brown men specifically, right? And I often wonder, and you can put anybody's name in here, if so-and-so would have had access to this service at that traffic stop, or as they're walking home from the store, or anything like that, and they were able to tap the app and call the attorney, you would have an attorney on deck right there, 2:00 in the morning, 7:00 in the morning, doesn't matter, and have somebody else to record it. So what I tell people is you use your phone to access justice, and you ask somebody else to use their phone to record injustice. But you got to be able to have access. And so again, all of that's part of the membership. And then the only part of the membership that's a 90-day waiting period, Tracy, is that somebody is looking for uncontested divorce, adoption, name change, or separation. So we don't want people to have the service and get a divorce and then that's it. No, you got to do that for 90 days, but it has to be uncontested. All of that is covered at 100%, right? So things that are covered at a 25% discount would be things that people are looking for an attorney for anyway, right? So what I tell people with this service, you never pay full price for an attorney again. But things like if you want to sue somebody, that may fall under the 25% discount. If there are criminal charges, that may fall under the 25% discount. If you want to file bankruptcy, that may fall under the 25% discount. You see, so these are things that people are actively looking for an attorney for. But that unlimited consultation will always be at 100%. So I know a member that called the law firm and said that they needed a consultation on resolving consumer debt. Was able to speak to the attorney for 45 minutes under her unlimited phone consultation part. And they told her, if you want to move forward, then they referred her to a partner law firm that would charge her the 25% of whatever the hourly rate is. But you understand the power and the value that she was able to get from an attorney, 45 minutes of talking to a bankruptcy attorney about what her different options were, and feeling empowered. So everything that I just talked about is part of and included in our flagship, the premium package that we offer.
I love that. And even to get 25% on some of the things that you're looking for is key, because we know the prices that, securing an attorney costs, right? So that being said, I want to say to you, just before we close out the show, what would you say to the person who, has their doubts because this is a membership versus just going to secure an attorney? What would you say to them about, these legal services compared to just going out and getting, some attorney that you look up on Google, right?
Right. And so what I would say to them is that being able to be part of a membership, anytime you have a membership to something, it's exclusive, right? And so you are invested into whatever this is. And for this, you're invested in the services. And so being able to have unlimited access, you can't get that when you're just going to find an attorney on Google, or, finding somebody or talking to somebody. You can't get that. And then being able to build a relationship, right? Much like people have relationships with their insurance agent, you can also have a relationship with a law firm. And again, we're not in trouble. We're just everyday Americans that don't get in trouble, but we want to be able to protect our rights. We want to be able to know what somebody can and cannot do. So what I would say to them is invest in yourself. and understand the scope of everything that's involved. Now, you can go out and spend $400 or $500 to talk to an attorney about an issue, but with this service, you're going to spend less than that to have a law firm of attorneys for 12 months. And not only in the state that you live in, but in all 50 states. Who wouldn't do that?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you live in Ohio and you travel to Atlanta. Guess what? You got a law firm in Atlanta. You have one in Florida. It doesn't matter. So that's what I would say to them, is that there's nowhere else that you're going to be able to have access to your legal rights in every place that you travel in the United States, and have access to not an attorney, but a law firm of attorneys. So you have your own team of attorneys that specializes in all areas of law that will put a complete wall of security around you and your family. You won't find it anywhere else.
Yeah. And that's key to mention too, because you talked about, if you're traveling, and I'm just going to using the United States, but if you're traveling and you're going from state to state, you're somewhere and something happens and you need legal services, this is the key, right? Because now you can get an attorney who's going to understand the laws of the state that you don't even reside in.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you need legal services for that particular area. So I love that. This has been amazing. I want to put your QR code back up there for anybody out there. Listen, if you have questions about this, book a consultation. If you already know that you need legal services for something, book a consultation. If you're looking for a new home, a new apartment, book a consultation, right? Anything that's happening in your life, book the consultation and get your legal services secured, because you want to be proactive, as Yvette mentioned, instead of reactive, so that you are secure. If you don't have a will, book a consultation. If you're starting a business, book a consultation.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you have children, because now have kids that are on their way to college. If you have children that are on their way to college, if they're returning to college, book a consultation. Yes. Not because your child is bad, but your child might be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you want them to be able to call their attorney and have somebody else call you. We want to empower them. And if I could say really quickly before we close, who the membership covers. It covers the member's spouse or significant other. They don't have to be married. Any never married children up to the age of 26 might be away at college or who still live at home. Any children that the member might have guardianship over, niece, nephew, grandchild, up to the age of 18. And any child that has a physical or mental disability, they're covered for the life of the membership as long as they reside at home. So it covers the entire family for one low price.
I love that. And up to 26 too. I love that for the children as well. So listen, everybody, this has been another episode of The Whole Living Show. You have gotten so many tips here, so many gems here. Make sure that you book your consultation and get the legal services that you need. Build your legal prowess right here with Yvette Gentry. You can give her a call. Book that consultation and get exactly what you need to live your life without the stress that she was talking about earlier, because you know that you have attorneys on retainer, right? So we thank you, Yvette. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for just being so knowledgeable and so passionate about, helping people to really get their lives in order from a legal perspective. I just respect what you're doing, and you just opened my eyes to some more things. And I thought I was pretty savvy, but I'm telling you, you gave me some things to chew on. So
yes,
I
appreciate you for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was taking notes over here. That's why I'm looking over, because I have a whole page of notes here. So I appreciate you. Everybody out there, again, book your consultation. We thank you for being here, and we will see you back next week on The Whole Living Show at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.